Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Lassane. Welcome to LSSL 5380, the Master Seminar for the Fall 2016 semester. I want to review option number 2 for those of you who are interested in young adult literature, who wish to become a middle schooler, a high school librarian. This is the option that makes the most sense for you. So I want to just walk you through what you're being asked to do here. As in the case of children's literature, you're going to do some reading and some commenting on books. In this case, a lot of these books are blasts from the past, including this first set here, which are authors from the past who are still relevant today. For each of the authors listed here, you're going to select 3 and read one of the books under those 3 authors, answering the questions posed above, these right here. How do these books continue to address relevant contemporary issues? Is there any content that might be outdated? If so, what? You're going to include that as part of the annotation you're going to do for the books, with a complete bibliographic citation and a JPEG of the cover of the book, bearing in mind that those JPEGs need to be at least 300 by 300 dpi. If you go to Google Images, it will give you the size of the file, and the reason you're looking at 300 by 300 is they tend not to be as pixelated. So which authors may you select 3 of for this particular part of the assignment? We start with Richard Peck, and most of you may be familiar with him for his later books, but these are 2 of his earlier books, Are You in the House Alone and Father Figure. M.E. Kerr was one of the first authors who dealt with drugs, who dealt with LGBTQ issues, and you get to choose from Dinky Hawker, Shoot Smack, and Deliver Us from Evie. John Marsden's books were made into a movie. I think the movie was titled Tomorrow When the War Began. You can read any of the books in that series, or you can read So Much to Tell You, or his remake, rethinking, reimagining of Hamlet. You're also going to look at David Almond, who was one of the first Prince Honor winners for his book Skellig, but you can also look at The Savage and a book called Clay. Francesca Lia Block is known for magical realism. You can read any of the books in the Weetzie Bat series. You can also choose from Pink Smog and Ruby. Chris Lynch won a Prince Honor for Free Will, but I also encourage you to take a look at a book called Inexcusable. Paul Zendel's one of the founding fathers of young adult literature. You can look at The Undertaker's Gone Bananas, Pardon Me, You're Stepping on My Eyeball, My Darling, My Hamburger. Zendel loved humor quite a bit. Joan Lowry Nixon is still, to my mind, the grand dame of mysteries. Whispers from the Dead is always my go-to book when I'm book talking, but The Seance is set in Huntsville, which I love, and The Weekend Was Murder, if I remember correctly, set in San Antonio. Bob Lipsyte was a sports reporter before he turned novelist, and he wrote a couple books about boxing, The Brave, The Chief, and a book about Bobby Marks, actually a whole series of books, starting with One Fat Summer. Robert Cormier is, again, a cornerstone of young adult literature. Generally speaking, we read The Chocolate War in the young adult class, but I'm offering you some other choices here. Fade, The Bumblebee Flies Anyway, and I Am the Cheese. Cynthia Voigt is a name that should be familiar with you. She did win a Newbery Honor for some of her dicey books, Homecoming, or any title in that series, or A Solitary Blue. Jim Cross Giblin was both an author and an editor. He did nonfiction. So you have here Be Seated, which is a history of chairs, From Hand to Mouth, a history of silverware, and When Plague Strikes, a wonderful book about the Black Death. Julius Lester, When Dad Killed Mom, or his retelling of Othello. Lois Duncan, Queen of Mysteries. She just died this year, and it's an incredible loss to us in the YA world. She wrote a book about her own daughter's murder called Who Killed My Daughter? She also wrote a book that, of course, was turned into a movie, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and Killing Mr. Griffin, about high school kids who plot the murder of their high school English teacher. So you've got, I think, some really interesting people from which to select. Remember, 3 authors, 1 book by each. So out of all of that we've just looked at, you're going to be reading a total of 3 books. Now comes the next section. And the next section takes us across the pond. In other words, to England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales. So books that are still originally in English, then are basically, excuse me, published in the United States. So what I'm asking you to address in these particular books, is there anything that sticks out in these that Americans would have trouble with? Any terminology or slang that would trip up an American reader? So anything that's, just really does not seem like something we would know. If you recall, when J.K. Rowling's first book was published here, they changed the title to Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone from Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, thinking that it would be much more American that way. So you've got a choice of authors here, as you did in the first section. You're going to read one of the books listed under the name of 3 of the following authors, answer the question posed above, and include then an annotation with a complete bibliographic citation and a JPEG cover of the book. So here we have Melvin Burgess. You get to choose from Doing It and Smack. Kevin Brooks, Martin Pigg, Lucas, Kissing the Rain. Sue Townsend, Adrian Mole series, any title. Notice there isn't a choice there. Marcus Zusak, Fighting Reuben Wolf, I Am the Messenger. You might know his name from The Book Thief, but that is not one of your choices. Margaret Mahy, The Changeover, The Tricksters, The Catalogue of the Universe. Peter Dickinson, Eva, The Rope Maker, A Bone from the Dry Sea. So you have those authors. We just kind of skip back there. And you're going to read one book by 3 different authors and answer the question and do the annotation. The next section is called Often Overlooked. Why didn't these receive press? Why did these books seem to fall through the cracks? And you're going to do exactly the same thing that you did with the other sections. Read 3 books, one by different authors, each one by a different author. Include an annotation that addresses the question above, and a bibliographic citation and a JPEG of the cover. So here, Tamora Pierce, The Talking Stones, Alana, Trickster's Choice, any title in that series. Avi's True Confessions of Charlotte Doyle, or Nothing But the Truth. Carolyn B. Cooney's The Terrorist, Driver's Ed. Pete Houtman, Godless, Invisible, Rush. E.L. Konigsberg, The View from Saturday, Father's Arcane Daughter. Those are both Newbery Honor books, and yet I know that there are lots of people who have not read them. Donna Jo Napoli, you can choose from Sirens, Zell, Hush, Beast, Spinners. These are all folktale adaptations. Garth Nix, Sabriel, any title in that series. Shade's Children, any title in that series. So again, 3 books, one by each different author, annotation that meets all of the requirements above. And finally, the final section is brand spanking new. What values and issues from contemporary society are reflected in these books? You're going to read 5 of the following titles and write a reflection about how they mirror what is occurring in contemporary society. Include an annotation for each selection, including the JPEG of the cover and a complete bibliographic citation. And of course, your annotation should address that question about the values and issues. So here are the books from which you get to select. The Serpent King, Salt to the Sea, Highly Illogical Behavior, All American Boys, The Smell of Other People's Houses, The First Time She Drowned, Fishbone Song, The Key to Extraordinary, American Ace, Wild Robot, Still a Work in Progress, The Great American Whatever, 910, 6 Kids and a Stuffed Cat, You Can Fly, The Best Man, Secret Coders, Maxie's Secret, Wolf Hollow, and Maybe a Fox. So that's the option number 2. You'll be reading books, 5 for this section, but remember you're going to be reading 3 and 3 and 3 for the above sections. So the reading load is not heavy for the course of a semester, but I am asking you to do some deeper reflection than perhaps we have time for in a regular semester. If you have any questions, be sure you contact me, but I hope this screencast helps you get started. Good luck.